Dying of thirst under alien suns, a human soldier gave his last electrolyte to an enemy woman. The twin suns of Sarosh, 7 burned white overhead, bleaching the sky and the broken rocks to the same pale glare. The heat wasn't just heat. It was a dry scouring force, a living thing that stripped the sweat before it formed and whispered the same word over and over. Thirst. Sergeant Lucas Dane staggered over the scorched ridge, his cracked lips barely able to form words. His canteen rattled empty at his belt. Each breath was a scratch of sandpaper down his throat, each heartbeat a dull hammer against bone. His skin felt as if it had been peeled raw, and his vision was half shadows and floating shapes. The calm in his ear had died hours ago. His unit was gone, scattered or dead in the failed assault on the Thraxian outpost. Now it was just him and the wasteland stretching forever. As he stumbled, something glinted below, a broken metal hull half buried in sand. Hope surged weakly in his chest. Maybe shelter. Maybe supplies. Anything. The wreck was an escape pod, torn open along one side. Lucas fell to his knees beside it, fingers shaking as he tore at the sand-caked hatch. His eyes caught a flicker of movement inside, a figure, hunched and still. An alien woman. Her skin was a muted blue-gray, burned at the edges where her suit had failed. Long, white hair clung in dusty strands to her face, and her lips were cracked worse than his. Her breathing was shallow, fluttering. She looked barely conscious. Lucas's training whispered enemy, but something older and deeper spoke louder. Someone dying, just like you. He reached for the emergency kit at his belt, fumbled out the last foil packet of electrolyte concentrate, barely a swallow left. Her glazed eyes flickered open, fixing on the packet. A wordless plea. Lucas hesitated. His tongue felt like dry leather, and his pulse thundered in his ears. He could live another hour, maybe 2, with this. But looking into her sunburned face, he saw fear, pain, and something like acceptance. Slowly, Lucas unsealed the packet and pressed it to her lips. She drank in tiny, trembling sips. He felt the last hope of moisture slide away from his future. But for the first time in hours, something inside him felt right. Minutes passed, though they felt like centuries. The woman's eyes cleared a little. She whispered something in a language he didn't know, then coughed painfully. Lucas leaned back against the pod, chest heaving. "Don't thank me," he rasped. "I'm as dead as you." But she shook her head and reached for a cracked display panel beside her. With weak hands, she tapped symbols that flickered and glowed. Shelter, cave, south. She managed in halting, accented standard. Lucas squinted at the blinking marker. South, 2, maybe 3 kilometers. Farther than he thought he could walk. But better than roasting here. He nodded. "Can you walk?" She tried to stand, legs trembling. Lucas braced her, his arms screaming with the effort. Together, leaning on each other, they staggered out into the glare. Every step was a battle. Lucas's heart felt hollow, beating only out of stubbornness. The sand burned through his boots, and his vision warped under the suns. The alien woman, he still didn't know her name, kept murmuring in her own language, words that might have been prayer or curse. Twice, she stumbled and nearly pulled them both down. Each time, Lucas hauled her upright, teeth gritted against the pain. He wanted to stop, to drop where he stood. But every time he looked at her, saw the trembling effort in her limbs and the hopeless hope in her eyes, he forced himself to keep going. At last, black rock rose before them, a jagged opening in the cliffside, shadows promising a mercy the sky would not. Inside, the air was cooler, almost bearable. Lucas lowered her gently onto a stone ledge. His vision blurred so badly he had to blink hard to see. The woman pointed deeper into the cave, where trickles of water stained the stone dark. Lucas crawled toward it, scraping his palms raw. The water barely covered the rock in a thin film, but it was real. He cupped his hand, brought a few gritty drops to her lips first. Then he drank himself, muddy, mineral-heavy, but it felt like life. They lay there, breathing raggedly, side by side. The weight of exhaustion pressed them down, heavier than the heat ever had. When Lucas woke, the light outside had dimmed. He found her watching him. "My name?" "Sura," she whispered. "Lucas," he croaked. She touched her chest, then pointed to him. "Saved me." "Why?" Lucas's mind felt sluggish, but the answer came clear. "Didn't seem right to let you die." Sura lowered her eyes. Thraxian soldiers would have left human to burn. Lucas managed a tired laugh, more cough than sound. "Guess I'm not Thraxian." For a while, they sat in silence, sharing the cave's cool darkness. Two enemies who were only people now, bound by desperation and a single shared choice. As darkness settled, the wind outside began to howl, carrying sand like knives. Lucas's thoughts slipped toward home. Green fields, summer rain, cold water in a glass. Each memory felt unreal, a story he'd once heard. Sura shivered beside him, and he realized her thin suit offered little warmth now that the sun had fled. Wordlessly, he shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her. She hesitated, then accepted, pulling it close. "You will be cold." "I'm used to it," he lied. Their eyes met again, and something unspoken moved between them. Fear, gratitude, and the fragile truth that tomorrow might not come. Sura's fingers traced lines on the cave floor, then she looked at him, her eyes bright despite exhaustion. "Pod beacon," she rasped. "I activated before you came." Lucas felt a tiny spark of hope. "Rescue." She nodded. "My people or yours? Whoever hears first." His stomach twisted. If Thraxians came first, he'd be a prisoner, or worse. But Sura had saved him too, now. Maybe they'd spare him. Or maybe it didn't matter anymore. Living until rescue was enough. They dozed in turns, half sleeping, half listening for engines. At dawn, the cave mouth glowed faintly gold. Sura's breathing had steadied, though she still looked fragile. Lucas's body felt drained, his muscles made of brittle reeds. But he could stand. Outside, the heat was rising again. In the distance, faint shapes moved across the sand, craft, drawing closer. Lucas couldn't tell whose. Sura rose beside him, gripping his arm. "We wait together," she whispered. The first craft settled onto the sand, sleek, silver-gray, marked with Thraxian glyphs. Armed figures spilled out, weapons raised. Lucas raised his empty hands, swaying on his feet. Behind him, Sura stepped forward, speaking rapidly in her language, gesturing toward Lucas. They listened. One soldier barked back, anger in his voice. Sura shouted in return, her voice raw but fierce. The commander, a tall figure in dark armor, studied Lucas, then Sura. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. Two soldiers came forward, lifting Lucas into the craft. His vision darkened at the edges, but he caught a last glimpse of Sura, her hand reaching toward him. Their fingers brushed, brief, human, alien, and then darkness took him. When Lucas woke again, he was on a cot in a med bay. Cool air, filtered and clean, washed over his face. Monitors hummed softly. Beside his bed sat Sura, wrapped in fresh clothing, a faint smile on her bruised face. "You live," she whispered. "So do you," Lucas murmured. His voice was stronger now, though still hoarse. She reached out, and he clasped her hand. No more enemy, just Sura. Later, the Thraxian commander visited, speaking through an interpreter. Lucas expected chains or prison. Instead, the commander inclined his head. You saved one of ours, the interpreter said. We honor this. You will be escorted back to your lines. Lucas looked at Sura. Her eyes glistened, and she squeezed his hand. Outside, the twin suns rose together, flooding the desert with light. For the first time since landing on Sarosh 7, Lucas felt that maybe he could go home. As the soldiers led him toward the waiting craft, he glanced back at Sura. She touched 2 fingers to her lips, then lifted them to him, a gesture older than any language. Lucas returned it, his heart heavier than his pack, but lighter than it had been for days. In the end, what mattered wasn't the uniform or the orders. It was the choice, in the dying heat, to share the last drop of life with another soul. And that choice, Lucas knew, would stay with him forever.